Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. We have an LCX exchange video here for you guys today. This is a project, or indeed an exchange I haven't talked about for some time. It's certainly one that I both use and also hold in my portfolio. We'll go into a bit more detail about that shortly, and as well, of course, the price points of LCX in the markets too, because it has been an absolute fantastic ride for the last 2 or 3 months. So we'll go into a bit more detail about that. For those that don't know too much about LCX, you can watch the intro video that we did quite a while back. I think it's about a year or so ago, to check that out in a bit more detail. We will cover a tiny bit of that anyway in this video for sure, just for the new listeners or viewers that perhaps have an interest or have maybe heard of this exchange, perhaps want a bit more detail. So let's go straight into this one, guys. First and foremost, if you haven't done so already, please do smash that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And of course, don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel, loads of different topics and discussions. And we, of course, as well have loads of interviews on there too. More recently, UK Commission or Law Commissioner for the crypto assets and frameworks, which is really interesting with Sarah Green. We've got a couple coming up very soon with the likes of XTC CEO Sunil. And also we've got the Energy Web team, EWT and EWX, a 2-part series, so keep an eye out for those. But for now, let's talk about this. So I'm not going to go into giant detail because quite simply, guys, LCX Exchange is very much similar to pretty much all the other trading platforms out there, as you can imagine. Now, there isn't a huge list here. I don't think this is fully accurate. Don't think they've added the newer ones, because I know ICP and a few others have been added recently. They're always adding new ones, of course, but I guess they put like the prominent ones on here that most people know about or know of. But yes, in general, you can anticipate pretty much most of the assets you can think of are related to here. Now, the advantages of LCX is it heavily regulated, based around outside of Liechtenstein. So it has a good protocol of standardizations and regulation behind it. So you're kind of in a really good, confident, trustworthy spell in your mind when you're using LCX. And there's a load of other things that they've got on here. Timans, to be honest, is a really interesting platform. I talk about this in Hedera, but LCX very much had this for a long time as well. I may have had it even before Hedera had. I'm not a huge fan of this website page in terms of how it looks and stuff, but the idea behind it is the tokenization aspects of diamonds, or being fractionalized or tokenized in this format for you to be able to invest in essentially diamonds. Now, for those that don't know, it's not actually listed on this website, but if you go on the Diamond Standard, which is partnered with Hedera, you will see an absolutely fantastic and interesting statistic relating to the percentage. So in terms of the current supply of diamonds out there in the world, which does equate to trillions of dollars, by the way, guys, only 1% of that existing supply is utilized for investment purposes. So we think about this, like the monetary value of diamonds, some cases rarity, in the way that also we have to prove their worth, what are they backed by, etc. But actually, diamonds could essentially be a format of gold in some instances, in the sense that now if we can have the ability for people to buy or have mass adoption of tokenized diamonds being able to be invested in, it really does take it to another level. So it's absolutely fantastic. You can imagine some of the prices are quite high because they're based on the carats. Now, me personally, call me a skeptic or whatever, I've always had kind of like a weird kind of mindset when it comes to diamonds and gold and things like that, because for me, like, I like to see physical things when I'm owning things, like those Pokemon cards or whatever back in the day. Well, I still have them. You can see them behind me, just around there somewhere. I've got all of them except Charizard. Can you believe it? Who hasn't got Charizard, I suppose? But anyway, the point being is that it's that kind of, I think it's a mental block with me to go, right, gold bullions, people, I know people that invest in them. They show me like on paper what they're invested in, but I'm like, well, I don't have it here. So how do I know I actually got this? So even with the tokenization of things, I'm still skeptical in my head, or mind block, to say like, okay, I could go and buy some fractionalized diamonds or whatever, but do I actually even own them? Anyway, off on a bit of a tangent there of tokenized diamonds there, but there is an offering of LCX if you're interested in that side of things, for sure. Just do your own research and your own methods in your mind about all of that as well. But there's loads of other things that they've got on here. They've recently added the market maker program. I think pretty much every exchange has this, to be honest. It's just nice to see that LCX added that. That came in about November time, I think. That's very much more so really for the benefit of projects or tokens that come onto the system that want to try and initiate the liquidity to be able to be stable, and thus obviously not have too much, volatility is expected in the crypto markets, of course, but it stops it from going, or arguably stops it going potentially from lower regions and ultimately completely ruining or annihilating the liquidity in those particular exchanges. And then the token obviously has to get delisted, or people go into a meltdown because they have to sell it because they panic, blah, blah, all that sort of stuff. So there's all of these aspects here. And then, of course, we've got the trading platform. Again, as I said, it's very much like any other that you probably use already, Binance or whatever. So, there's the arguments like, well, why do you want to use this one if I'm already using Binance, this, that, and the other? I mean, there's arguments to say that, some of the other platforms aren't fully regulated or still not adhering to certain things. LCX kind of takes it a bit further forward with that as well. And some argue, in the anticipation of legislation, regulation, to have that kind of ahead of the game, as it were. It really put it in good stead. But ultimately, that is a big confidence builder, in my opinion. And I think for the next wave of people that are coming in over these coming months before the big bull cycle, hopefully, fingers crossed, towards the end of this year, or at least the start of it, people are going to be coming in and asking the questions, which one's the most secure exchanges, or which one's the most regulated, which one can I have more confidence in? And I think that's a really important point to make. Yes, of course, people will traditionally ask other people and go, what ones are you using? They're always going to say like Binance or KuCoin or Coinbase, Kraken. But there will be many people coming in, guys, and it's almost a free-for-all as to what exchanges will be used. Now, a lot of exchanges here in the UK have been taken away from us because they can't really adhere to the UK or new UK regulations through the FCA, whether it's through advertising or just regulation of the exchange in general, which kind of opens the question up as to, well, if you can't do that, then why not? And yes, you're still operating in other countries, but why couldn't you do the UK? And you're kind of running away from it. Kind of puts a bit of a dodgy spectrum in my mind as to doesn't sound too secure, or maybe something that's not kind of appropriate in your mind to think that this is a exchange you want to use moving forward. So you've got those kind of mindsets that will come into play for sure. But yes, those bits aside, we'll go into the price point of LCX in more detail shortly. But for those that are interested in finding out where you can get LCX from, obviously you can get it from the LCX platform, but you can also get it from these particular exchanges on here as well. I actually get mine through Bitrue, albeit I have sort of started using the exchange itself. But yes, predominantly I had used the Bitrue purely because at that time, or when I was getting massive accumulation, I haven't been doing it for a few months for LCX, was utilizing the BTR token, the Bitrue token, to get quite good discounts on the exchange to get the best reduction in fees and things. So we'll go on to that point in a second, because that is definitely another scenario to keep thinking about. The other aspect of LCX was quite interesting is the earn platform. Again, I've kind of gone into massive detail of this on previous videos, so I'm going to keep it short. But there's some great interest rate opportunities, particularly around stable coins, or indeed some of the bigger assets that you can think of. And of course, LCX itself. The only thing I would say is, if you're listening from the UK, unfortunately, we can't take advantage of this. It's certainly within one of the 30 European countries, of which they've got a big list of. But as we obviously left the EU, Brexit and all of that, we can't really be a part of that. Which is a bit of a shame, really, because I would like to have made good returns on LCX in itself, and there's some really good yield aspects on that. I would have just left mine in there for a few years, to be honest, as the exchange builds. I'm not giantly fixated on trying to trade LCX as a token, but that might change, and especially when we look at the markets in a minute, it might swing my mind in the coming months. We'll see. But two key topics here in addition to that is the scale up of exchanges, guys. Now, what's happening over these last couple of years is a lot of the exchanges have dropped off. They completely disappeared. I've been first-hand experience of that because I've lost tokens because they've just disappeared. There's no customer service or anything because they've just literally gone. And particularly other ones as well that, as I said just a moment ago, have removed themselves from the UK markets because they just simply can't adhere to the legislation or the advertising remits that are required for moving forwards. But pretty much all of these exchanges that you see here have very much, conformed to the new regulations, and we've had to, like, as users, do little quizzes on our phones and things to kind of initiate that responsibility aspect that we know what we're not necessarily always know what we're doing, but we understand the remittance of risk, i.e. we know that we could lose our money, and especially in crypto markets quite significantly, but equally, of course, on the other flip side of that is you can make a lot of money. So it's just general practice. I think people got a bit annoyed about it because we're in this like decentralized society for many years in the crypto space. It's now becoming more formulated to centralized narrative and formulation. And I think that's no different for like password security, privacy, and obviously, as I just said, the kind of format really to try and help us, or perceive to help us, to just understand the risks, etc., of things moving forward. So LCX, you can't actually see really on this list massively right now, but that's not to say that it's a bad token or a bad exchange. It's just still a lot newer compared to some. I mean, some of these have been around for years, guys, absolute years. You can the mass adoption behind all of this as well is absolutely gigantic. You can see here the trading volume alone within a 24-hour period is absolutely staggering, and this is in essentially still a bear market as well. Can you imagine how big this will be when it all switches around in the bull runs? And in fact, I don't know if we can see at the top here, market capitalization completely 1.64 trillion. I anticipate that to be at least 5 trillion in the next bull cycle. I can anticipate that absolutely in my mind. Let me know what you think about that. And to be this number here, by the way, cryptos, 2.2 million, right? I'm not even joking. About 2021, 2022 maybe, this wasn't anywhere near this number. There was like, I don't know, 50,000, maybe even 20,000. I haven't looked at that number since just now. 2.2 million crypto assets. Are you being serious? There's no way they're all going to last. I've always said that we're going to see like 70% of them disappear off the face of the earth over the coming years, whether that's regulated narrative around that, or it's just they couldn't sustain themselves, or they get bought out, whatever. But that is absolutely ridiculous. But it shows you the bubble, and that's kind of like the concept of the whole thing at the moment. Is we're in that kind of Web 2 phase, early 90s, whenever it was, and there was so many companies, and then over a 10-15 year period that reduced significantly. Yes, of course, there's loads of websites out there, but I'm talking about the companies that actually create software or build stuff. I can see that similarly happening here. I don't think we'll have 2.2 million of these in a few years' time, but let's see. Let's use this video as a reference. My other key point here is tokens in general, guys. The LCX token, which can be utilized to reduce fees, and of course help utilize the system in general, the exchange in general. Now, I personally am a holder, or was a holder particularly actually, of BNB. I sold that off quite well a few years ago now. That just flew up, guys, to be honest. I'll just give you a quick example of this one. If you see here on this data screen, I think I was buying like $20 or something, and I sold all of them at like $300 and $400, which was actually mental. But can you believe that? The Binance token, BNB, which predominantly was used for the reduction in fees, that shows you how much trading volume was in there, maybe even institutional level volumes going in and out, because you would have saved, who's going to be buying BNB at $500-$600 if you're only going to be doing that if you're doing serious money through the thing, in my opinion, or you've just generally just taken advantage of the trail. That's just the only two ways about it. But I did invest a lot in KCS, the Q coin, and we said, I think in a video, one of my first videos, I was like, pay attention to the exchange tokens. Back in 2021, I was kind of laughed at by my mates for buying these at like $4 or $5, and they shot up to around 24, 25. I think I sold them just under the $20 mark, so I made a relative amount of money. I just held a few for a laugh, really. It wasn't a huge amount, but it gave that principle in our minds that there's some legs here. And some of these are like just exchanges that are nowhere near the capabilities or volumes of these bigger ones, like the BNB token, for example. Kronos obviously quite a big one as well. The Crow token from crypto.com. But yes, Qcoin, you can see that. Well, let's not talk about FTX, although it still seems to have crazy things going on. I know they've relaunched it. But anyway, that's another topic. But there's loads of other different ones here as well. And you can see, of course, their rankings in there. I mean, BNB, to be in the top 4 of the overall market cap is pretty decent going, to be honest. OKB is obviously a huge one as well. But as I said, I use like Bitrue. It's just here, I think. Yeah, BTR tokens. This is a good price. And again, let's just have a quick look at that one. We can see that there's good momentum here in the past as well. Obviously, the big trigger points being in those bull markets, but that's where the money will go into and they will be bought. So you could argue even with this one, 4 cents to the previous all-time highs of around 46 cents. That's a big jump. And I think that'll be a lot higher in the next times round. And we jump back to LCX, it's exactly the same principle. The only really crazy thing right now is that we're not even in a bull market, and this thing is absolutely flying up. Currently, I think it's around, again, we'll go into more detail on the proper charts in a second, just to narrate this, 30 cents already. The previous all-time high back up here at 36, 37 cents or something. So it's already flying up. And why is that? Because, as I said, more and more people have confidence in a regulated platform. It is new. Yes, of course, absolutely. You could argue I would love to have got more at 4 cents, but if you haven't got that opportunity, yes, you could wait for the reductions. But again, I think LCX is going to be one of those multi-dollar tokens. As awareness builds, people coming into the markets, they're going to be researching, in my opinion, new users to crypto will be researching a multitude of things. Is it regulated and is it trustworthy? And I think when you're looking at regulated platforms, LCX will be absolutely one of the significant ones. And of course, yes, of course, people will go to Binance and stuff still. But I think there's going to be a lot more caution this time around because a lot of people did jump in those bull runs last time without understanding the markets. I'm totally suspect to that from the previous runs in like 2018, 19 or whenever it was. So I learned my lesson then. Many people have learned their lessons in 2021, but this time around, you're going to get the people who've learned those lessons, plus a load of new people as well, guys. And on top of that, all these ETFs, all of this easy access now to cryptocurrency assets in multitude of platforms, PayPal now, for example, it's going to storm up, guys. There's going to be more people than ever before. That's why I think it's one of the last cycles that you can make significant money in, because I think then it's just out there. It's just fully out there. There's an argument to say that we could have another cycle maybe towards 2030 where the world probably changes significantly there. But that's my point really, is that the LCX exchange with the LCX token, the ability of that, there's opportunity there and there's opportunity to use it as an exchange as well. So it's absolutely fantastic. I've got hopefully an interview lined up with these guys very soon as well. But yes, there's loads of what's the called products, services that they offer, and of course the aspects of things like the token sales, which again is pretty much like launch pads that you get on most exchanges, but a lot of people take advantage of them, and there's loads of other areas here. But in general, guys, just to make it pure and simple, it's really no different to any other exchange other than with that awesome regulation behind it, the formality of the advertising aspects, and just the general legislative frameworks. And they're always evolving anyway, but it's definitely an exchange, I think, personally, that will have a huge future. It's early days for it still, in my opinion. Even that price point as it is not a true reflection on how well it is. It's looking like it's doing really well, and it is. But there's a lot more to come, in my opinion. So let us know what you think about that in the comments below. Just drag this up just to give you a bit of an idea of the performance. Look at this. There's not many assets out there, guys, and especially exchanges that can boast green across this board in this fashion. It's up 50% on the week, 107% on the month, 585% up on the 3 months. We'll talk about that in more detail in a second. And the year to date and the year are absolutely strong as well. But look at this. Back in November, we'd mentioned the point about 4 cents, driving up to this well, not an all-time high, but certainly near enough towards it, 31, 32 cents, 669% increase to that top point there, or thereabouts. It has had a bit of a reduction. So again, in that market sense, look at that, 32 cents down to 23. Let's just quickly draw that in, just so we have a bit of an idea of that. And this is what I meant earlier in the video. that there's opportunities for the trade aspect to get quite excited about. It's a 23% drop. So if you're profit taking on that, or you're trying to find elements to enter, there's always some around, like with any market and any asset. But look at that, trailing down, then it closed up back up here. That's almost a 20% reverse in one day. In the whole day, it's dropped the 23% and then it's risen 20% as well. And even back up the next day towards 30%. So there's plenty of opportunity within these remits of areas of the fib retracements. In fact, I could argue the fact that if I just took one of those lower and higher points there, you could start seeing a bit of a reflective pattern of where those miniature moves are. It's going to be a bit of a long shot to get to that 44 cents. I think you're going to get a lot in intake for that. But yes, in my opinion, it's slightly overpurchased at the moment. It's still got a bit of legway though. If you look at the RSIs on the bottom left here, 14 days showing 76, 28 days 75. So it is higher ground. So for me personally, I'm not jumping into this until I see this revert back down to around sort of 45 to 40 marks on the RSIs. Maybe 50 potentially for that halfway mark. But that's just the way I do the market trading myself, or accumulation patterns. For me personally, it's a bit too risky to play around with this unless you know what you're doing specifically, or if you're working on like hourly trade charts and things like this. There's definitely opportunity there for sure. But for me, again, it's not financial advice at all, but do your own research, do your own analysis, your own risk management. That's just mine, how I'm doing it, and I have been doing it for a few years now, and it has been working. But you know, it is great to see the development, not just of LCX exchange itself, but the price point. And it shows my point exactly, that in the next bull run, if we're doing this in like bear kind of half winter market still, what's it going to be like when we get to those higher regions? And if we talk about that previous all-time high, which let me just quickly revert back to what that actually was. I think on here on CoinMarketCap, it's saying an all-time high of 70 cents. I don't think I think that's kind of like a launch price, so I'm not sure if we can take that into consideration. But let's just, for argument's sake, go with that 41 cents as a marker point. We could argue that there's some definitive fib levels that we could easily achieve in the next run. 60 cents is probably achievable, maybe even towards the dollar. Will we see in the cycle the $5 to $10? Possibly, but I think this needs to stabilize first and foremost over these coming months. If it doesn't stabilize and we reduce ourselves back to these lower regions of, say, like 10 cents, 20 cents, or sub 20 cents, there's a longer mountain to climb for sure. I think dollar beyond that is quite difficult. But that aside, if we do stabilize around this particular area between the sort of 20, 30 into the 40s, yes, that it could potentially possible to get to that dollar mark. We'll have to see. But even that spectrum, let's just pull that up from its current price point and towards that higher point of $1. That's a good 200%. So it's not actually a huge move at all in terms of numbers. But if we were to retrace back all the way down to sort of those 10, 12 cent marks, yes, it gets back to that sort of 600%. But, the argument is for sure, if it could move in these short bursts of time, 300-400%, why couldn't it do it in a longer run? So it's totally open for debate. And please do let us know in the comments below what you think the price point could hit in the next bull cycle for the LCX exchange. I mean, look how BNB and everything ran up. As I said, I was purchasing those. I could have got them lower, but I was getting them at like $24, $25. And the reason I did that is really stupid mentality, but I was doing it because I was getting Elrond at the time, the eGold tokens, for around that sort of price. And I thought, well, I think that these are going to get to quite high numbers. So you kind of have that risk of, they're higher in terms of a first hand of capital that you need to put in to get them. But I think the reward's going to be good. And ultimately, it's just down to percentage gains at the end of the day, irrespective of whether something's $10, $100, whatever. What's it going to increase to? Or what's that percentage increase? That's ultimately what it is. Because as exciting as it looks like when you get to 400 or 500, for a fact that you've already put $25 or $100 in. But you just look at psychologically the bigger number, and that's what makes it exciting, when actually the number that should be really exciting to everyone is this percentage here. What's the gain? If someone said to you, you're buying this at 4 cents and it got up to 40 cents, you go, okay, great, cool, but 40 cents, that's not a huge number. But the percentage of 300 to 600% gain, take it any day, wouldn't you? If someone told you with a crystal ball. So that's the excitement where it should be. in the percentage gains, not so much the actual number value. It's exciting to see Bitcoin at 40,000, but if it goes up to 80,000, it's not a huge jump. If you've got one and you've doubled your money, fantastic, because 8 grand is a lot of money, obviously. But my point being is the percentage gain. There's loads, thousands. I've seen 2.2 million crypto assets. I'm pretty sure half of them at least. You can make significant percentage gain on there. So keep that in mind when you're looking at these exchanges. And LCX isn't always just the answer. There's loads of them, as I said. It's important to understand, first of all, what's the remit of these exchanges in the countries that you live in? What have they been following, the regulation patterns, the authorities, the frameworks, etc.? Because that will play a big part. What services they offer, what ones apply to you, what are applicable to you. But then ultimately understanding as well that reflux of people, or influx of people, coming in these coming years, and particularly in the next 18 months, in my opinion, next 18 months to 2 years are going to be absolutely critical. Huge numbers of people coming in. And that's where we go when they start doing the proper marketing to say, get this LCX token, BNB token, whatever it might be, to get extra fee reductions or free fees, whatever. People will fly into it, guys. Whether it's because they don't understand it or they're just excited about the reduction in fees, it doesn't matter. It will just fly up, and then people will just jump in because they want to take advantage of the price point, and that's when big money comes in, because we've already got a load of money from previous usage of crypto assets. We're holding stable coins, whatever it might be. You've got a load of capital in there, or you're new to it and you're just chucking money at it. This is how they rise up so quickly. So keep an eye out for it, guys. But that is very much a quick wrap up of LCX. My timer says I've gone way over my 15 minutes. However, I've done it about 26, 27. It's not too bad. But guys, we're going to wrap that up there. Let us know what you think about the LCX token and the exchange. If you're using it, let us know what you think about the usability of it and anything else that could be relevant that we can use to help share that information with other people. Thanks for watching, guys. We will see you in the next LCX video. Take care. Bye-bye.